Ever wonder what happens when two operating systems walk into a bar and only one walks out? Google's sitting on a peculiar throne right now, ruling two kingdoms that basically do the same thing. You've got Android on your phone and tablet, then Chrome OS on your Chromebook, and if you squint hard enough, they're almost identical twins pretending they've never met. Now imagine you're the executive at Google tasked with explaining why the company needs two separate operating systems for devices that increasingly do the exact same tasks. Good luck with that PowerPoint presentation. The lines have been blurring for years, and everyone knows it. Here's the thing about Chrome OS. It started as basically a browser with delusions of grandeur. The pitch was simple. Everything happens in the cloud, your laptop is just a window to the internet, and local storage is so 2009. It worked brilliantly for schools and people who live inside Google Docs. But then Android started getting serious about larger screens. Tablets got better, foldable phones arrived, and suddenly your phone could become a laptop-sized device with a keyboard. The overlap became impossible to ignore. So what happens if Google actually pulls the trigger and merges these two worlds? First, you'd see Chrome OS essentially dissolve into Android like sugar and water. All those Chromebook manufacturers would suddenly be building Android laptops instead. The immediate benefit is obvious: one app ecosystem to rule them all. Right now, Chrome OS runs Android apps, but it's like wearing someone else's shoes. Technically functional, but never quite right. A unified system means developers build once and it works everywhere, from your pocket to your desk. Education gets interesting because schools love Chromebooks for their simplicity and bulletproof management tools. Google would need to convince IT administrators that Android can be just as locked down and manageable. That's a tough sell when Android has a reputation for being the Wild West of operating system. Here's where it gets spicy. Apple would absolutely love this move. They've spent years perfecting the iPad with keyboard, pretending to be a laptop dance, and Google fumbling with a messy transition would hand them market share on a silver platter. Nothing says buy an iPad quite like confused consumers facing half-baked software. The Chrome browser would still exist, obviously. It's not going anywhere. But the operating system built around it, that becomes just another app in the Android universe, albeit a very important one. Google's hardware lineup would simplify dramatically. No more explaining the difference between a Pixel tablet and a Chromebook Plus. It's all just Android devices in different sizes. Marketing teams everywhere breathe a sigh of relief. But here's the corporate drama nobody talks about. Teams would get dissolved, merged, reassigned. Chrome OS has its own engineering organization with thousands of people who've built their careers on this platform. Consolidation means job uncertainty, political turf wars, and the kind of internal chaos that makes products worse before they get better. Enterprise customers, the businesses paying Google for management and security, would freak out initially. They've invested in Chrome OS infrastructure, trained their IT staff, and built workflows around its quirks. Switching isn't just technical. It's political, financial, and deeply annoying. The Android side would need serious upgrades to match Chrome OS's strength. Things like seamless updates that don't require rebooting, enterprise management that actually works, and a desktop mode that doesn't feel like a smartphone wearing a tuxedo. That's years of engineering work compressed into an impossible timeline. Power users would revolt at first. The Chrome OS community, small but passionate, loves the simplicity and speed of their current system. Giving them Android feels like replacing their sports car with a minivan. Sure, it's more versatile, but where's the fun? Security researchers would have a field day. Chrome OS has a reputation for being locked down tight with verified boot and sandboxing that makes malware practically impossible. Android's security model is robust, but fundamentally different. Merging them means potential vulnerabilities during the transition period. Then there's the web app versus native app philosophy. Chrome OS bet everything on web apps being the future, while Android is a native app powerhouse. Reconciling these worldviews isn't just technical, it's ideological warfare between engineering teams who've spent decades defending their approaches. Performance becomes tricky on low-end devices. Chrome OS can run smoothly on modest hardware because it's stripped down and focused. Android is more demanding, and suddenly that budget Chromebook your school district bought becomes sluggish and frustrating. The timing would be fascinating because Google's competitors aren't sitting still. Microsoft keeps trying to make Windows work on ARM processors, Apple's tightening its grip on tablets and education, and everyone's racing toward this mythical, unified computing future. Google moves too fast and ships garbage, moves too slow and becomes irrelevant. Developers might actually celebrate, though. One SDK, one set of guidelines, one deployment process. The current situation forces them to think about Chrome OS as an afterthought, which means subpar experiences. Consolidation could mean better apps for everyone. But let's talk about what Google really cares about: data and advertising. A unified operating system means unified user profiles, unified browsing habits, and a more complete picture of how people actually use technology throughout their day. That's worth billions in targeting accuracy alone. The transition period would be absolute chaos. You'd see hybrid devices that try to be both things at once, probably failing at each. Software updates that break as many features as they fix. Customer support lines lighting up with confused users who just want their Chromebook to work like it did yesterday. Some features would simply die. Chrome OS has peculiarities that Android would never adopt, and vice versa. Users invested in those specific workflows would feel abandoned, posting angry manifestos on Reddit about how Google ruined everything again. Yet here's the ironic twist. This consolidation probably makes sense. The tech industry is full of redundant projects that exist purely because different teams started building similar things and nobody wanted to admit they should merge. Chrome OS and Android reached that point years ago. Google's already testing the waters. Android tablets are getting better desktop modes. Chrome OS keeps borrowing Android features, and the boundaries get fuzzier with every update. The question isn't if they'll merge, but when and how messy the process will be. The real game here isn't about operating systems at all. It's about owning the entire computing ecosystem, from phone to laptop to cloud. Apple does it with iOS and macOS, playing nice together. Google's current split is the last major barrier to that unified vision. So if this consolidation happens, expect a few years of confusion, some brilliant innovations born from necessity, and ultimately a computing landscape that looks nothing like today. The winners write the history books, but the users caught in the transition, they'll remember every frustrating moment. That's the strange future of computing: fewer choices, more integration, and the nagging feeling that simplicity comes at a cost we haven't fully calculated yet. But knowing Google, there's probably already a skunkworks project making this exact plan happen while we speak.